Hey, how's it going? So today I have a couple of fun flavors from Flavor Express. Didn't pay for these. Shout out to ECX for sending them to me. But I'm going to be going over their Rainbow Sherbert, their RY4 Double, and their Sun Seeds. So, second disclaimer, because I know you like disclaimers. I don't mix with a lot of Flavor Express and super concentrate flavors. To me, there's always something interesting about the mouthfeel. They always feel a little bit dry and undersaturated as compared to like your normal PG based flavorings. But I have been told by numerous people that I am being irrational and they work perfectly fine. So I'm going to be evaluating them more on the scope of how they taste and sort of relative vaping experience, as opposed to just saying, this doesn't taste like one of my normal PG flavors. So I'm going to start out with their Rainbow Sherbert, and there is a second R on there, so I can officially say Sherbert. So starting right off, it does pretty much taste like a rainbow sherbet, so that's cool. They call out the raspberry, orange, and lemon as the specific flavors of this, and I get those. There's a sort of bright artificial raspberry to start out. I do pick up some like heavier orange notes, and then there is some sort of generic citrus tartness at the end, which I assume is kind of standing in for the lemon. I'm more used to lime at the end of a rainbow sherbet, but this works pretty well for what it is. These flavors are kind of chalky and powdery and very artificial, but it's a rainbow sherbet, so that's kind of what they are supposed to do. I do feel like the raspberry here is maybe a little bit floral, and that's actually starts to come out like at the tail end of the exhale. Like it gets a little perfumey and a little floral. But in general, it does a pretty good job of giving you those three artificial flavors and kind of mushing them into an indistinct clump like most rainbow sherbets would do. The base here does a pretty good job of representing a sherbet. Definitely feels like some kind of cream base, but it's not like that super rich, heavy, buttery, eggy kind of VBIC taste to it. It has a little bit of like a tartness to it, almost like a frozen yogurt. But in general, pretty neutral cream base, maybe a little bit of buttery, richer notes, but not like a complete DAP bomb tasting VBIC kind of monstrosity. So I do get like moderate denseness out of this. Doesn't feel as rich and thick and creamy as some of the other VBICs, but part of that's probably just my own like super concentrate based damage there. I do think of those kind of flavors that I've tried, this is one of the thicker ones. I do get a little bit of harshness out of this, and I think it's from all that fruit and sort of that bitter, perfumey note to the raspberry. But overall, vapes very well. I feel like it compares pretty favorably to some of the competition, at least for like a one-shot rainbow sherbet flavor. This actually tastes sort of like a sherbet, which puts it above like Liquid Barn's TPA's Rainbow Sherbet and Flavor West's Rainbow Sherbet are both kind of a mess. This actually does Rainbow Sherbet pretty well. So if you wanted to make this more sherbet-ish, you could definitely add maybe a little bit more into that ice cream base. I'd go for one of the lighter VBICs though if you wanted to go like the VBIC route. I'd probably go for like Flavor West or Cap. Nothing too sort of crazy heavy and rich like TPA's or Liquid Barn's vanilla ice cream. I do feel like if you wanted to sort of double down on that weirdly chalky sherbet texture though, you could probably go for some TPA vanilla swirl. I think that'd work really well to back it up. But yeah, outside of that, you could probably use it anywhere that you need that combination of sort of artificial raspberry and citrus. I think it'd work pretty well in candy recipes to avoid going too thin. There's some actual body there. In terms of the mixing percentage for this, seemed to me to work the best around 2.5%. After that, I got a little bit floral. But overall, the best single flavor rainbow sherbet I've tried. So that's something. Next, I have Flavor Express's RY4 Double. So you can watch my previous video for my rant about RY4s. I will say though, this tastes basically nothing like the TPA or the Jungle Flavors version. This tastes like coffee to me. I know that tobacco is big and nuanced, and there's a whole bunch of like different off flavors and tobaccos and a lot of times what you buy that says tobacco tastes nothing like tobacco. I don't know. This just tastes like drip coffee to me, and specifically drip coffee with some like added white sugar stirred in for sweetener. It's kind of a sweet coffee flavor more than anything else. There is something a little bit darker, but feels more like cocoa to me. I don't know. Maybe I just get those flavors confused. But yeah, I definitely call this more of a coffee concentrate than like your traditional style RY4. So yeah, mouthfeel is good for one of these types of flavors. I don't know. It doesn't have that like crazy heavy, sticky, rich thing like the other RY4s. I do get a little bit of harshness out of that, but I think it's just because it's coming across a little dry to me. I don't know. If you were going to be using this, I wouldn't necessarily go into it expecting a different take on that TPA style RY4. But honestly, I just use it for the coffee note. The coffee note here isn't bad. It isn't like that dark, dry, heavy, like burnt popcorn thing that I'm used to with some of the darker coffee notes. It's actually a pretty solid coffee, and if you added some cream to it, I think it'd pass for like a coffee vape that wasn't necessarily like your tall, half-calf, skinny unicorn frappuccino bullshit. I think it actually works pretty well as a coffee flavor. So yeah, stick it in with other tobaccos if you actually want some tobacco in your tobacco flavor, or use it around 2% as like a coffee accent for, bakeries or beverage vapes or something like that. So yeah, do I think it's a RY4? Not really. Pretty good coffee vape though. And so last for today, I have Flavor Express's Sunseed flavor. So I'll just go ahead and state outright, this one's interesting. I like it though, but it's interesting. So this is a sunflower seed flavor. It's kind of like salty raw sunflower seeds, which is pretty interesting. I'd call it fairly accurate, actually. I do get maybe a little bit more sweetness than I'd expect from just raw sunflower seeds. But you do get like some of that warm nuttiness. There's also sort of a greener, I don't know, for lack of a better word, seed flavor. It definitely tastes a little bit uncooked to me. But again, sunflower seeds, right? One of the more interesting things is this actually tastes like legitimately salty to me. Like I get some actual like tactile sensation on my lips that actually kind of feels like you're eating sunflower seeds. Doesn't really vape salty, I guess. I'm not distinctly tasting salt or whatever, but it vapes a lot like something that has salt in it, which is pretty cool. I will say, just for the record, room note is super interesting on this. It basically smells exactly like sunflower seeds when you vape it. This entire room smells like sunflower seeds, and that's okay. It's a fairly potent flavor in general. So it fits into that subcategory of flavors for me where the concentrates aren't necessarily like unbalanced at higher percentages. They still work pretty well, but it is a super distinct flavor. And so it's like Inaware Sesame in that way, Like you can vape that stuff at 3%, works really well, but you're never going to taste anything but sesame past it. So this, I actually vaped it like at 2-3%. Tasted fine, concentrate's good up there, but you're not going to be able to sneak anything past it, really. So if you did want to use this as sort of a raw, nutty, like mild, sweet accent to something, I would go ahead and start like chopping percentages on this. You're probably looking at under 0.25% if you don't want your actual vape to taste like sunflower seeds and you just want to take some of the characteristics of this. So in using this, I was a little bit stumped. I did go and check out some ELR recipes and some all the flavors recipes or whatever. So I saw two really interesting uses, one of which was by Fresh. He used a little bit of this to kind of fill out a peanut butter flavor. And that sort of sweet nuttiness without adding like a super hard AP crunch. I think that's a really smart use of it. So, at a low percentage, you can go ahead and use it to fill out nutty flavors without necessarily making the entire thing into a huge AP bomb. So that's pretty cool. The other recipe I saw was posted out by ECX themselves, and it was for their mango sticky rice concentrate, where they use something stupid like 0.02% to presumably kind of like help along their Flavor Express sweet rice flavor, where you'd need that same kind of nuttiness. So as an accent flavor, I'd look to those applications where you're just trying to bring in some sweet nuttiness without absolutely destroying everything with some extra AP. As a primary flavor, though, like I said, if you really want to taste sunflower seeds, go for it. You could probably go a little bit higher if you wanted to like go for some sort of like trail mix or nut brittle kind of flavor where you already have a lot of those nutty flavors going on. And I think this would sort of help bend that into something a little bit more realistic. Or, you know, when in doubt, throw it at tobacco. Just people who vape tobacco will accept any sort of weird note as long as it actually enhances the vape. And that mild nuttiness and even some of that like green seedy taste would actually go really well with like a non-aromatic tobacco. But yeah, you probably don't need 10 milliliters of this. I feel that's going to last for quite a while. But in general, it's really interesting, you know, and I haven't found any flavor that does exactly what this flavor does. So that's really cool. But yeah, if you were looking at any of these, I hope that helped. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I will catch you later.